Benziton. What's up, y'all? Elio here with another video for the Alter trading card game. I've been grinding with a new deck, and as soon as I picked it up, I went on a 20-game win streak up to rank 5 USA on BGA before taking a loss. The deck is sick, and I want to talk about it. The inspiration for the deck is Benziton. When looking at a lot of the strong Bravos cards, I realized that, similar to Lyra, there's a lot of lopsided power in the cards. Things with uneven stats, like the 440 Mighty Jin or the 311 Haven Sarengar. These powerful cards create dynamics where often you are both advancing on a lane. This can set up turns where you are behind in a lane, and you both win the lane, pushing you closer to a win condition while keeping you behind for mechanics like Benziton. So, the goal of this deck is to be an aggressive Kojo. We want to trade a lane early on and then go for double lane pushes from there on out. We are thrilled to take 2-1 turns where we advance on our Kojo lane while also blocking them, and we trade the other lane with both of us advancing. Benziton provides a powerful top end that, like Mighty Jin and Sarengar, provides card advantage that we ensure we never run out of gas. Except, it puts a ton of power on the board that people are not prepared to deal with versus Kojo. The thing about Kojo and Benza is that people usually can't really afford to keep removal for big things versus Kojo. Most removal that works with Benza cannot hit or is very inefficient versus the rest of the deck. This means that often your opponents will mana such removal, and if they don't, they may just end up punished by the cards of a low-end Kojo deck. Your opponent gets stuck in catch-22s. Many of the rest of the deck continues our theme of providing powerful lopsided threats for the mana value. Outside of this, there's a small fleeting theme. These cards provide a ton of power for their punch, while synergizing with things that care about fleeting. Bravos Rescuer gives more value than a Tomoe Gozen when played with something that has fleeting. And Arcano Milk synergizes with not just these cards, but Kojo's Booda token. Play this in the companion lane while you are second player, and that lane will be explosively hard to stop going into the late rounds. Our final character is just the super solid Haven Bouncer. It fits none of the above themes, but it is just one of my favorite utility cards out of Bouncer. Closing out the non-uniques, we have our spells. The deck actually ends up with tons of card advantage. Between Benza, Mighty Jin, Sarengar, and even Tiny Jin, we have a plethora of riches, and being able to cast multiple spells is part of how we push our advantage. Things like Geyser or Tiny Jin are themselves card advantage. You can kind of read them as draw a card and immediately put it into your mana. Your next turn, if you don't put anything into mana, you are now equal with your opponent, but up a card. A lot of people miss this. Intimidate and Mana Eruption can be key disruption pieces that push through wins on pivotal turns. Finally, our uniques. Solid trainees that help us win unbalanced lanes, and a Veilmon that is just big. We often get to 10 mana, so the reserve effect on this guy is not irrelevant. That's the deck. Let's jump into some games. Okay, game 1 against Teija. I don't love Haven Bouncer against Teija, where a lot of anchored units can come out and make it so that it's a while before we actually get a good Bouncer target. And for that same reason, I do like having removal against the anchor targets. Geyser in particular, when we're going second on turn 2, can potentially be like a great hit for hitting their aloe vera that they may play anchored, and we get to immediately Geyser it. Is a great potential sequence that I like to support. I don't really want to keep 2 removal spells, so for that reason I'll put back the Mana Eruption. It's also something that I don't love to have early. And then with that, I'd like to keep the unique, giving us a Rescuer, Geyser, and unique Haven Trainee to start us off. Open with the Rescuer on the left so that we're putting things in both lanes. And we advance on the Booda lane, which is kind of exactly what we want. This lets us be behind now if we ever draw and want to play Benza. Now, here I do want to keep the Geyser and Trainee still. It's probably best to put back the Milk and keep this our last Eruption for later on. But I don't love playing this early, which means I'm just going to be holding this for a while. So I end up putting back the Eruption, but that means that we're without any like permanent removal. Permanent meaning long-lasting, not the card type left in our deck, since those are both of our Mana Eruptions. With him opening with just a 2-drop Spindle Harvester, it does have a nice ability, though not one that's going to be too crazy here. Maybe he Chirons and gets that anchored. But I don't really want to Geyser this and just have this immediately played again for 2 mana. So I'll just open with the Rescuer on the left lane and then milk the right lane so that our Booda comes in bigger next turn. Okay, I still want to keep this kind of sequence, so I'm going to put back the Benza for now. That'll let us have a Geyser plus Tiny Jin turn. Now we can go either side with this Tiny Jin. The right can kind of basically force a win with the TJ, giving us 6 power over here and let us get lopsided lanes. It will make the Tiny Jin immediately go away, which I kind of want to get 2 plays out of it. Whether or not I advance on this right side, it'll either be a good blocking unit or a good advancing unit for us on the right. So I'm going to play the TJ to the left side so that I get 2 plays out of it, but there's an argument for playing it to the right and just taking the immediate mana with that. They play this Sneezer Shroom here. I'm going to go ahead and use this opportunity to ramp. The Haven Trainee doesn't guarantee us anything, and by geysering this, they'll lose at least the boost that they use this turn and get us ahead on mana. This is a pretty sick play. They actually Ogun, and they could keep around the Ogun with their boost ability, but that's only contributing 1 power to the lane. It's not that good, and it also stops them from just playing Ogun again next turn. So they anchor our Tiny Jin, which is going to be useless in this grass lane, and prevents us from playing it again to start ramping mana. So clever play from our opponent. I like it. And I think is like their strongest decision there that not a lot of people would see. Okay, here I don't necessarily need to mana. I'm already ahead. I do want to keep this Benza, and I don't want to get rid of these 2-drops, because then that leaves me with like nothing to do this turn. So I'll play a Trainee and a Sarengar this turn since we're not yet behind, and I'll plan on being able to hopefully play this Benza for value and power later on. They go left here. We can go ahead and match and start advancing with the Trainee on the left. Now, they are ahead here. We're not going to block them on the left with Sarengar. We could tie them on the right with this Sarengar and just draw the card immediately. But I'd rather actually let them get ahead so I can start playing Benziton and drawing card to refuel some of our value. So I'm just going to pass here. I'll let them double advance. And they had a what would have been a full reserve, so they just go ahead and play the Ogun out to trigger the Spindle Harvesters, not overflow, and keep a lot of things in play, which is a strong position for our opponent. Alright, I don't need the second milk. There is an argument for keeping it so that we can have a 2/2/2, 3 2-drops plus a 1-drop play, but that would really be me getting rid of like the Benziton, which is not what I want to do right now. So I'll get rid of the milk. I'll open up with the Jin on the right and just try to make sure that we fight over and win this lane. We're probably not winning the left lane with him already having 7 power there, but we can at least limit him to 1 advance this turn. Now, here, I want to get the Sarengar in the reserve, so I'm going to play it on the left. This like maybe scares them off of trying to compete on the right, because if I'm going left, maybe it means that I have something that can try to blow up their game plan. And it does indeed get them to go left, which I'm fine with. This ensures that we're just trading lanes here, and I can potentially draw 2 cards next turn with like Benziton and Sarengar, or do a Benziton Tracer turn if that's the best thing for me to get in play. Discard the milk from reserve here. Our opponent's ahead, but they just lost some value here. They will be getting the Aloe Vera. We don't need another Sarengar, and this Fire Rabbit will give us an extra play this turn. They do see Beauty Sleep, which is going to be pretty good versus the Benziton. I'd like to try to dodge that. They play Spindle, so any removal we have in the future, we should set aside. Now, I want to open up with something that's not, that may get this Beauty Sleep out of his hand, or out of his reserve. The Sarengar doesn't do a great job of actually blocking this lane, so I'm going to be planning on Benzitoning on the left in a way that will let me win in the lane and draw the card. So I'll open up with the Tracer on the right. If he sleeps it, like I'm ultimately okay with that just staying there until the next turn. And then here I can Rabbit, boost the Tracer, and if they Beauty Sleep, that's fine. It'll just stick around for the next round. They don't, but we'll drop the Benziton, which will let us win and block the lane, and now we'll only be 1 lane away while we have plenty of gas and fire going forward. I use the Haven Training support ability on the Tracer so that we have this powerful play next turn. And I'll plan on discarding the Benzitin. We have what is probably going to be the final round, and I can, at this point, get more value out of just playing smaller things. Really, ideally just one more 2-drop, or maybe just 4/4/2. That this also spreads our threats more against this Beauty Sleep, which we know they have in their reserve. I'll open with the smaller things so that this Beauty Sleep is less effective. The Sarengar is only going to give 1 power on the right. Really, the last thing that we want to play is... Well, we do want to block them. Right now, they are going to be getting to 6 water and 4 forest. We're going to have them blocked on forest no matter what. They can only sleep 1 thing, so we're going to have enough water no matter how we sequence this. So we just go ahead and play out our Tomoe first. It doesn't matter that they sleep it. The Tracer in reserve gives the threat of the kill. Okay, up against Akesha. Both of our Benzas are in our opening hand. I would like to keep one of these, but probably not both. I can't afford to keep both of 2 late game things against Akesha. You need to be pressuring lanes somehow early on. In general, I want things that can give me some sort of card advantage, and I'd rather that be advantage that's coming towards me rather than the bouncer, though if I didn't have like Tiny Jin or Mighty Jin, I would keep the bouncer. Tracer can like win lanes, but I'm afraid of removal, sabotage, things like that, draining me of things, and I want to be able to win or stay in the resource game. So I'll keep Tiny Jin, Mighty Jin, Benzitin. There's some rhythm to that. Tiny Jin, Mighty Jin, Benzitin. And yeah, I'll go Tiny Jin on the left. Awesome that they fight us here. I'd like to be ahead in the right lane rather than the left lane. Here, I'll get rid of the milk. It does synergize with like this rescuer, but so does just playing things from reserve. And going back to the previous thing, like I'm not trying to do things that'll have me run out of gas. They do Trias here. I'm fine with that. Would love for them to go right with this. But either way, we're going to be going Mighty Jin on the right. Love this. Feels great. Feels good. We go up a lane, and we'll draw a card with this Mighty Jin. We're starting to see our cards coming together. I'd rather keep one of these Tracers to sneak through a lane win later on than keep both of these Rescuers, and this Bouncer will definitely find a use at some point. He is going to be trying to exhaust things, so I'll open up with some sort of Mighty Jin play, which is going to be our better option here. I could just continue to push right, but this is a potential double advance turn, so I will go left with the Mighty Jin and then plan on following up with the Tiny on the right. They Rhyme Frost here. I don't think they're going to be able to match our 4 power anymore with this. Then, so I'll continue to try to double advance this turn and play the Tracer on the right. Sorry, they will be able to block our stuff here now that the Moth is over there. But because of Benzitin, I'd rather push on right than push on left and have them be able to play this Baba Yaga on the right and stop us. Like, that would make us tied here, and Benzitin's no longer turned on if we do that. We still want to be ramping right now, so we did discard the mana there. I am... he has some big things that we can get mana trades with like the Withered Tree, and maybe he's running like Tower, so I'll keep this Geyser for now rather than the Rescuer. The other thing is that, though there's an argument for getting rid of the Geyser and having the Rescuer, since it is going to play nicely with like the Tracer. I'm a little afraid of me sometimes having awkward sequences where I can't play anything from my reserve because of their ability to exhaust, so that does make the Rescuer worse. But it's probably the case, again, just because of this Tracer, that the Rescuer is good enough to put back the Geyser. But we do put back the Geyser, or we do put back the Rescuer, and that's both of our Rescuers. They open up with a Rhyme Frost. We'll see where they put the Moth. It goes in the Kojo lane. We could like Bouncer Geyser, but that just probably loses both lanes and doesn't feel like that much value. So I'm just going to Benza on the left side draw my card. They can play both of their units from reserve for us both to advance here. But I'm actually fine with that. Like, I'm moving forward where I'm 2 away. They're going to be able to place where I'm 3 away, sorry. They're going to be able to place where they're 2 away, as long as they're not 1 away for a small step. I actually feel good about the value that I have right now. Drawing actual hard removal and being at the mana spot I am now, I can put back this geyser. I'll open with TJ on the left. Now that they know that we have the Benza, it's more likely that they keep things that can answer it. So I'm not going to be rushing to get it out while we have all these cheap plays that the refueling allowed us to get. We don't want to let them advance another lane and put us in small step territory. Now, they are at 4 forest. We'll play the Sarangar on the right and start leading them in this lane as well. And their double maws, we can actually just beat with a single Pathfinder. Now here we could Mana Eruption this tree, but I'd rather like this just be available and we can use this on something more surprising later on, like maybe a Flamel that they think is going to win the lane. We're also going to this lane only 1 point away, so I'd really rather it be a surprise thing than where we get rid of the 3 mana they spent for Flamel than anything else. Going into a turn where we're 1 away, I don't want the 6-drop here, so I'll get rid of the 6-drop and we have a ton of value to play from our hand in reserve. We don't need 2 mana eruptions, that's a little awkward, so I'll put 1 back. Here we'll open with the Pathfinder on the right, pushing our... We'll see where they put this, but yeah, I'll put it on the right so that we advance our own lane. And we can play all 4 cards, or no, we can play 3 cards from our hand. So they after you. If I'm going to play 3, I can do Bouncer, Tomoe, and either Tracer or Eruption. This could do a spell discount. And if it was only the character, I'd probably leave it there so they have to play 3 mana for something that we could just Mana Eruption. But because it could just let them do trickier things with the discount, I'm just going to play Bouncer on the right and hit the Flamel, so their plays are more straightforward for me, which makes them a little bit easier to play around. We'll go to Moe here, continuing to build up this, and then we have Mana Eruption if they have Isatok, and Tracer if they have anything else. They don't have Isatok, so we're crushing on the right lane. We can play the Tracer on the left lane, and this should be pretty impossible for them to beat. Yep, GG. Okay, up against a Sigismar. I don't love Geyser versus Sigismar. It's okay. I don't hate it. But I'm going to be planning on Mighty Jinning turn 2, and I don't want my 2 turn 2 plays, so I'll put back these 2 Geysers, and the Fire Rabbit Tracer gives me a 1-2 play to maybe... I mean, we're probably not going to advance both. But the Tomoe is a late game spell, so I just feel kind of forced to keep these 3 things. So I'll put back the 2 Geysers and the Tomoe. We'll see how they open up. Hopefully we can just play the Tracer to force a lane win. And I will go on the right lane here so that as we continue to push with Booda, we fall back in the companion of the hero lane so that Benza's available to us. No reason to play the Fire Rabbit. That's not going to advance or stop anything. Okay, I will keep both Mighty Jins, so I'll put back the Rabbit for now, and we'll hopefully start to get some value back from drawing cards on these Jins. I could try to advance on the left, but if I do that, they're just going to steal the right lane with the Ortis Overseer. So I'd rather go right with the Mighty Jin. We'll guarantee advance. They'll probably double advance because they'll get the Overseer, but we'll be behind and we'll be behind overall, but not by too much. So things should be generally okay. It's a little unfortunate that this thing by itself is going to outmatch us, but like the only way we could have stopped that would be with the Sarangar, and then we're just not playing efficiently with our mana. and I feel like that loses us the game rather than taking this line. Pathfinder's awkward to draw right after he got off this blue-black lane, or this blue mountain lane. Here, I do think I still want this though, especially if we start fighting over this lane. This one might be just a straight up mountain. I have lots of things that fight over green, so I'll put back one of the Sarangars. They play a Moth Lantern, which is spicy. Interestingly enough, they don't play it in the recruit lane. That would immediately let them make a 2-2. I'll go ahead and play the Jin left. They gift a self to draw, so they're giving up the left lane and making a Moth on the right. And I'll play this Pathfinder right, which I would love for them to not play anything else and like let them advance, put the Lantern in the reserve. But they do Rallying Cry to block us as well. So the Lantern will go to reserve, but we won't be advancing here. We're once again trading lanes. We're overall one behind, but we do have this Benza lane on the left. Okay. We have a lot of value now, but I'll get rid of this TJ. It's a little awkward because once again we could do like a turn where we do 3 2-drops in a Jin, but I like all these other 2-drops a lot. I don't want to get rid of the Mighty Jin quite yet, and we're not fighting over straight mountain, so you know, having that 1-drop play isn't like crazy. But we'll start by putting the Pathfinder on right to dodge any or to spy shenanigans, and to basically lock up this right lane. They do play a Foundry mechanic, though, that for 2 mana just seems insane. They, with that, put a Tiny Jail in their reserve, which itself is scary. And they put the Foundry mechanic itself to sleep, so it'll stick around for longer, and any characters he plays now are going to make tokens. So that's scary. All we can really do here is try to build up power and see how they play it. They hit our Pathfinder, and so with that, I'm going to try to force the right lane win. I don't think they'll be able to win the left lane by putting a Tracer here. So even if they rally and cry this, it's not going to be enough. And this should be enough to double advance, but we'll see. I know they'll block us with the Lantern, so we'll even up the game here. And they'll start with this Lantern and play a pretty powerful turn from our opponent. Now, here, I think that we either put back Milk or we put back Mighty Jin. But I'm really trying to figure out how I can win the right lane or pressure the right lane. And with that, I'd rather have the Milk around so that even if we lose the right lane, it makes Buda big next turn. I don't know. I put back the Mighty Jin here, and I think that we maybe should have kept it on left to fight over this, but his ability to just make infinite tokens here doesn't give me a lot of confidence in my ability to do that. Plus the fact that this Lantern makes so many 2-2s, like I feel like I play the Mighty Jin there and we just lose. So I want him to win the Lantern lane, get rid of this Lantern expedition, and hopefully we can fight over this right lane. So I'll open up with the Milk on the right to stall a little bit more. They play another Moth Lantern on the left, so like now I'm even more resolved in my determination to just throw left and try to win right. And when I play out this trainee here, I am ahead enough that I think I can draw. They play a Chrysalis on the right. That gives a lot of power. We'll need to do the Tracer in order to block it. Intimidation isn't going to be enough. So we play Tracer on the right, get a ton of power, and we'll once again trade lanes here. But we're going into this turn with them having to discard some cards from the reserve. I don't know. It's a very even game right now. I'm pretty afraid of all the things they can do. We are going into our Buda turn, which is nice. Okay, Intimidation doesn't feel good right now, so I am going to put that back. But what else am I doing? The Milk can allow us to like Milk, Sarangar, Rescuer, and we still have enough mana for the Bouncer, so we can play everything in our hand. Yeah, I think that's what we do, but we just open up with the Bouncer. Now, because they have this Isba, the Lantern really scares me. But this is such a powerful unique. It makes so many tokens. But basically, like, this is making 1 power initially. if he plays like an Ortis Cadets, it turns an Isba into another 2 power, so that's like 3 power, and this at best is going to be making 2 more tokens. I think this is just a little bit more powerful because of that, like slightly, but because if we go to a tire lane, this is going to stick around. I don't want to have this continue to be a threat. So I get rid of the Moth Lantern here, and we'll see how that pays off for us. Now we can just play out the milk and start seeing what we need to do. Sarangar first, which will let us draw a card with the milk. They play Baba Yaga. We can continue to fight on the left with the Rescuer and give boost to the Sarangar. At this point, we are very far ahead in both lanes, but they play a Anubis, which is going to tie the left lane, but we'll still win the right lane. So we'll go to another round. Notice this founding mechanics. Yeah, we both advance. We go to another round with both of us 1 away from winning. Draw a card from the Sarangar. Velamon's not a bad one. 3, 6, 10. I can get rid of this bouncer, but this bouncer will be good for getting us some value, so I'll just get rid of the milk. And plan on playing 2 3-drops and a 4-drop this turn. They play Yaga. I'll immediately start fighting over the left with this bouncer and get rid of their Anubis while I can. They play Cadets. I'll play Bouncer on the right to start having, or Bouncer on the left to further push this advantage, and then the Velamon can win the right by itself. They do activate Isba, and we just play out our Velamon and see what they have. But we're currently ahead by 4 water on the left. Any removal spell for this isn't going to do it, and no removal spell is going to hit this Velamon. So they do concede, and that is the game. Those are the games. I am recording this before I am out of town, but I should be back soon. Thank you for watching, and yeah, until next time, I'm Elio.